and welcome to Zoom with Czarny. I'm Dustin Czarny, Democratic Elections Commissioner. Today's Saturday, August 10th. I'm one day late with this Zoom with Czarny, and this is my interview show. I have on coming up later in the interview, Chris Ryan. He is the candidate for Senate District 50, the one that was won by John Mannion 2 years ago by 10 votes. And John Mannion now has left to run for Congress. And so Chris Ryan is running for this Senate district race. And he's also the minority leader of the Onondaga County legislature. You may remember him from previous interviews with that on there. So I'm very happy to have him on. I'm very glad he's coming on. And it was a great interview. Sorry, I'm one day late. But the reason I'm late is because I was at the summer conference for the New York State Elections Commissioner Association in Tarrytown, New York. I was there from Tuesday to Friday. And I got back a little late on Friday because of the weather and car issues. But got back safe and sound. Everything's fine. No problem there. However, I did have a very eventful conference. I was nominated to serve another year as Democratic caucus chair for the entire state of New York for all of the elections commissioners in the Democratic caucus. We have 62 counties in New York. That means 62 Democratic elections commissioners, and all of them unanimously nominated me. It's an honor to serve. I've been in that role since 2017. It's one of the things that I'm very proud of. I also got to honor former state board commissioners Doug Kellner and Andrew Spano. I was able to put that video up on my website, or not on the website, but on the on my Facebook and YouTube and Instagram feed. So if you're interested in that, there's about a 15-minute reel there that and they have some incredible words of wisdom. So if you want to watch that, go ahead and do so. We are now 86 days away from the general election. There's a lot going on. As I talked about in Tuesday's Commissioner in the Car, Kamala Harris picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate, and the convention, the virtual convention, ended on August 7th. That means they are the official nominees, not the presumptive nominees. They are now the official nominees of the Democratic Party, and they will be on the ballot starting August 22nd. August 18th to the 22nd will be the Democratic convention, but I don't want to say that's for show, but it is it's the official vote has already happened on that. We also got some news on the ERA amendment that was approved by the state board, and it will be on the ballot. But there was a lawsuit filed about the language on that. That probably be heard and done in the next few days or weeks before the September 11th certification that the state board will do so we can start putting out our ballots on September 20th. So there's a lot to do. That's kind of the recap of the news, but stay tuned for my interview with Chris Ryan, minority leader of the Onondaga County legislature and Democratic and Working Families candidate for Senate District 50, which runs in Clay, Cicero, Manlius, DeWitt, and Geddes and Camillus, and into Oswego County, and probably one of the closely watched Senate district races in New York State this year. Enjoy. And we're back. I'm very happy to have my good friend Chris Ryan, currently Onondaga County 8th District legislator, minority leader of the Onondaga County legislature, but more importantly, he's running for Senate District 50 to succeed John Mannion up in the state Senate seat, one of the highly contested Senate seats in the state. Chris, thanks so much for coming back on Zoom with Czarny.
Thanks, Dustin. Thank you for having me. It's always great to be with you. My pleasure.
Yeah, I know you've been on a couple times, but this is a presidential year. A lot of different people are tuning in, may not remember or have watched before. So why don't we get into your background real quick? Tell us a little bit about your life and what led you to get into politics.
Well, my well, my life, what kind of my union sort of got me into politics, if you will. I come from a family of public service. Obviously, my uncle was in the county legislature, was for 30 years, ran for state assembly, ran for county executive. So I guess it's always been kind of in my blood. Always kind of worked on campaigns. I obviously work as a lineman, union lineman, but I'm also the president. Was the executive vice president, now president of our union local CWA local 1123. And my union, Communications Workers of America, pretty heavily involved in politics, shaping policy, local level, but mostly on the state level. And so, for the most part, I think we like a lot of unions. Some of mine particularly uh, emphasizes trying to get people to run for office and trying to work and shape policy that affects our members. So I think that was kind of got into it that way, but also the opportunity. It was 20 years ago when I first ran for Gaddis Board. So I ran first, I think I don't know, well, 20 years ago, right? So 19 and a half years. So got elected, was elected town board there for 4 years, and then 2 years into that term, Jim Corbett, who's county legislator, IVW 43, good guy. He vacated. That was the year when a whole bunch of us came in, and then I ran for county legislature. I've been on the county ledge for 13 years since.
Yeah, I mean, I think you came in what was it, 2013 was
Uh,
your
12, I think ran in 12, but I think ran 11 or got elected in 12. So
oh, right,
went
ran in
on.
11,
Right,
elected in 12.
yeah.
And you've been the minority leader since Linda Irvin retired, which was a couple years ago, right? I mean, now, so it's the last 2 years you've served as the minority leader of the county ledge. Um, what's it like serving on the minority in the county ledge? I mean, I know you have had a lot of high profile fights on behalf of the citizens of Onondaga, but what are some of the things that you're glad that you've been able to fight for on the county ledge?
Well, there has always been the good times, I guess, and the bad times. It's been kind of kind of an up and down. I know that there was a real tough time, I think, when Mark Stanzik, I think, left. And then there were just three of us. People don't remember that. It was myself, Monica, and Linda. And that was it. Monica Williams and Linda Irvin. And then that wasn't until we picked up that seat. Peggy came on, and we picked up another one. But yeah, it's so at least now we have the ability to affect bonding, and often we have at least one Republican who votes with us often. But I remember those days, right, when we couldn't do anything. And then there was also the time, if you will, the highly publicized coup, if you will, when we all stuck together and the three of us got new chairman in. So that was interesting. We had the ability to do a few things there, but by and large, we haven't had a lot of success by virtue of the numbers affecting policy and local laws. I sponsored the law. This is what happens, right? I sponsored the law to end take-home pay for the full-time electeds. I wrote the law, I worked on it, and at the end, I think in the 11 and a half hour, they took the bill away from me, the law, and a Republican sponsored it, and they passed it. So that's the kind of things that happen often. We worked together on the budget. People kind of don't see that behind the scenes. A little bit more than that as the minority leader, floor leader, try to get some things put in the budget and work towards that. So we can. In some years we've been successful. Other years we haven't. Last couple of years we've worked pretty good. On the other side, I've worked pretty well with the majority leader. We don't get everything we want, but we try to get some things. And then obviously some of the bigger fights, as you mentioned, some of the bigger, more highly publicized fights with the take home vehicles. They were costing taxpayers too much money. We were unsuccessful there, shaping some policy regarding obviously not just take-home vehicles, but our expenditures and some cost-saving measures. We run successful with our ethics commission, revamping that, beefing that up, putting more transparency, and also obviously the big high-profile fight of the redistricting. So when it matters, we haven't done a lot, but with some of the bigger fights, we haven't won, but we've certainly been trying.
Yeah, it's not like you're just rolling over. I mean, you're blocked by the numbers of the county GOP and with the county executive. So, but having the public debate is important because you've been able to shape the policy as well and make them a little bit better. But it's tough. It's tough when the numbers aren't there. And I know you've been part of the redistricting fight that has been ongoing. That we're hopefully going to finally go to trial later this year. But you've decided to run for the state Senate seat. Now, remind people that John Mannion is running for Congress. He's our nominee for Congress now, and he's decided not to run for re-election in Senate District 50. He's represented that for 4 years. It's been a close election each of the 2 times that he ran, but even closer that last time where it was only 10 votes. And so you're really kind of stepping up to the plate here. What made you decide to run for this seat?
Well, certainly an opportunity, right? I think life sometimes presents some opportunities. I never got into this, 20 years ago, getting into politics, thinking that I aspired to be in the status, the state government. But again, with John stepping down and running, vacancy occurred. I believe that obviously being in experience and both on the local level, county level, being involved in county politics, we've done a few good things, right? So we talked about the things we haven't done, but also economic development. We've been a part of that. We've been part of a lot of infrastructure improvements. And I think there's going to be a tremendous need for both of those 2 things in the state level. So I maintain, I always thought that I would be able to give it my best shot. I thought I could do a good job. I wouldn't have gotten into it if I didn't give it my all. And I think that I could try to be as impactful on the state level as I have been on the county level. And, we're going to have some challenges. And I think this district is definitely going to, what lies ahead for Onondaga County. It's going to be very, very imperative that the person who holds this seat is in the majority. There's going to be some labor force issues that we are going to have to get some state funding for if we're going to be successful. There's going to be some infrastructure issues that if we have to get some state help to be successful. And also our healthcare, I pledged to fight for that too. And we have a lot of difficulties, access to healthcare, access to specialized providers, access to long-term assisted care living, access to nursing homes. And so those are a few things that I'm going to fight for. And I think positioning ourselves to have somebody in the majority is going to be very, very helpful. Not just somebody in the majority, but somebody in the majority with experience to try to get things done. I've always prided myself at least trying to work across the aisle to cooperate, collaborate, get some things done. And I'm going to do that same thing in Albany.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the majority issue because that is something that's very important for a district like this because it is seen as the district that might flip the most. It's always competitive, but what's not competitive is the New York State Senate. This is the Democrats have held the majority, 2/3 majority since 2018, and has done it on these maps as well. And no one's expecting that to change anytime soon. And it's pretty important. There's a lot of different funding access that somebody has in the majority as opposed to the minority, especially in the New York State Senate. And of course, we have Micron coming to our to that area, to the 50th Senate district. It's the 50th Senate district is the northern Clay and Cicero, and then down into Geddes and Camillus, but also the southern part of Oswego County. And that's the area that's going to be affected the most by the Micron rollout in that area. So let's really hammer in on that, the majority issue. what is the difference, between a majority and minority member in the New York State Senate?
Well, I certainly think it gives you the ability, just, it's not unlike the county legislature, right? So as I alluded to before, I worked on what I'll add to also. I worked in close in conjunction with the then county executive Joni Mahoney and the district attorney Bill Fitzpatrick to end take home pay for full-time electeds. I did the heavy lifting, we did it, and then at the end of the day, what they did was take it away from me and then co-sponsored it and then took credit for passing the bill. And I think that is unlike other, obviously when you're in the majority, things like that happen. That's just the nature of what happens, and that's always going to be. It happens now in the county, it's going to happen in the state, it happens at the federal level. But I think being in the majority gives you a unique opportunity to have a better voice, to have a bigger voice. And I'm not going to say that always that equates to funding, because I don't know if it is. I'm not there, but historically speaking, those that are a majority are able to influence, are able to shape, are in a better position to have their voices heard and get the concerns of their constituents addressed.
So, you kind of touched on this in your earlier, remarks, but you are a union guy. You've been a union guy your entire life or a long part of your professional career. With this large labor force coming to with Micron into the northern part of our county, what's the importance of having a labor voice in state government?
Well, if I've heard one thing because obviously, as we are all, well, may be aware, may not be aware, with that CHIPS Act, CHIPS Fab bill, right? So there's a labor component of that, right? So that's going to be built with the trades. They're going to be apprenticeship language is going to be union trades work. And if I've heard it from one union, I've heard it from a lot of the unions that, we're going to also need, if we're going to be able to meet this moment, we're going to have to provide you with the trained workforce. We're gonna have to not only have to go out and get them, but we're gonna have to train a lot of new people, which is a great thing, which is fantastic, because we're gonna have a lot of people working. We're gonna have a lot of people to work, and they're also gonna be working not just a good wage, a good union wage, which is going to be tremendously beneficial to the Central New York as a whole, not just a Senate District 50. But those are dollars; those are real world dollars, and there has to be some sort of funding to provide that training, because they can't do it themselves. They just can't do it. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible. So there's a tremendous need there, and we're going to need some resources if we're going to meet that challenge, and if we're going to provide the workforce, trained, capable union workforce, knowledgeable experts, if you will. We're going to have to train a lot of people.
Yeah, and so we're talking about the importance of having a labor person, the importance of having the majority up there, but you're also running in a presidential year,
Right.
and it's very different than in previous years when you run in. You've been running in the odd years for county ledge. Now you're running in not only a presidential year, but with the shakeup that happened over the last couple of weeks,
Right.
it looks like it's going to be one of those highest turnout, years in in our history. And you have a weird district, right? You have a northern part of the district, which is the southern part of Oswego County, and then Onondaga County. Onondaga County is kind of a light blue, and where most of the population is, and then you got a kind of a bright red area of the Oswego district. How is the fact that you're running in a presidential election? How's that affecting your campaign? What are you trying to do to go out there and meet the voters and keep them on the line?
Well, it's a good question, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot to put your arms around, especially when you look at the projected outcomes. You look at the number of voters in the district, plus the projected outcomes, and then if you add a little bit to that, and then that's your number of voters you have to go out and get. So it's a lot, and it's it's tremendously huge, right? And then you just kind of scratch your head and say, how am I going to connect with all these people? But it's just we just keep working, I guess. It's just we just keep doing the best we can. We have a great group of people. We have a lot of volunteers. We're up knocking on doors up in the city this we go. This past weekend, we're going to be all over the place. We're going to be up in Scribe and Minetto and over to Cleveland. We're going to be in Phoenix, the town of Schuylkill. So those are places that we're going to be. We're going to take our message to the voters, and and like I said, we're gonna talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about it and access to healthcare. And I think we're going to have a good message. And I think it's going to be a message that's going to resonate with the voters in our district. And of course, and then just kind of hope that there's a big turnout and things fall your way.
Yeah, you're a Democrat, you're a leader in the Democratic Party. We've had a unique shakeup at the top of the ticket with Vice President Kamala Harris deciding to, President Biden first deciding not to run, and the party really coalescing around Vice President Harris. Are you seeing that in our area too? Are you seeing when you're out on the doors? Are you seeing that excitement that seems to be out there, at least in the national coverage of this yet?
Yeah, and I think also and the other thing too is we can't discount the fact of like a congressional year. I think people really kind of focus in on their congressional races too. So these years and the presidential that coincide with the congressionals, I think it just elevates that. But then, it was just, I mean, we all went through it, right? So we were there for a couple of weeks and waiting. Is President Biden going to get out? Is he in? Is he out? And then I think the momentum, I think we're seeing certainly, if for nothing else, a renewed interest. I would say renewed interest, but definitely exponential amount of enthusiasm. I think people are reinvigorated. I think that they have a new energy, and I think that that's going to help. I definitely think it's going to help bring out voters. I think it's going to help top ticket down. We call, as you will, like down ballot candidates, and I don't. I think it's going to do nothing but help. Nothing but help. And we've had a really good reception at the doors. People are very much aware. Message people just want government to work for them. I get that a lot. I don't. That's fine, but if you're on my doorstep, let's have a conversation. And I got that a lot actually this weekend. Like people just want government to work for them.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the congressional race. I mean, that's ranked as one of the top flips in the country. So we're going to have people working on that. You have the natural excitement around the presidential election that tends to bring people out. We do have a senator's race in New York. Senator Gillibrand is up. So there's a lot of forces that are bringing people out to the polls, and the local voices trying to make sure that they're staying on the line and coming to your race as well. So as we're kind of getting into close to the end of the time that I like to have for these podcasts, but what are some of the issues that you feel? Yeah, I know you said you wanted government to work for them, but what are some of the issues you feel that if you are elected to the Senate, when you are elected to the Senate, what are you going to focus on in your first term?
I guess stick with what I guess, labor, right? So you went, I've been a member of CWA Local 1123, but in addition to that, with the labor community, with the Central Labor Council, the Area Labor Federation, working with locals, whether helping them or whether it's SEIU or CSCA and the day job, if you will, but also with the legislature, with the trades and trying to get members of the trades on the IDA board. So I think that's something we need to focus, because Central New York is going to need people to go to work. The migrant is not going to start. I mean, it's going to be happening. There's going to be some time. There's going to be a couple of years out, but also infrastructure. We've been doing infrastructure at the county, infrastructure on a higher level. I've been talking and doing that on the county level for 13 years. But also, I definitely want to talk about healthcare. I get it a lot, and I think that's an issue that we need to work on. Access to care. It's something that Central New Yorkers greatly need, and we may not be exactly rising to the moment here. Too many people are having to go without. Too many people can't afford it. people can't afford, they don't have insurance, lack of insurance, or underinsured. And, also education. It starts here, education. I mean, New York has great public schools. My wife is a public school teacher. All four of my children two of them went to, two go to public schools. And that's a great component. We have great schools, great teachers, and we need to continue that. So obviously, education and funding is going to be important to me as well.
Well, again, we're kind of getting close to the end, so I always like to end my interviews with my lazy catch-all question, but it's an opportunity for you to kind of tell us a little bit more about something that maybe we haven't covered. So I'd say, what haven't we talked about, Chris? What is something that you want to leave the voters with, or expand upon on something that we've already talked about, or even something personal about you that maybe people don't know?
Well, I'll just say, I'm going to continue. I've always been, I think if you could say one thing, I think people would say that at least, Chris Ryan from the Democrat would always be the one to pick the fight if needed to be, if it's worth fighting for, but always be also the one that we could work on together, right? I've always prided myself on the person that has the ability to try to work across the aisle to get something done. That's what I want to do in state government, and that's what I think that the district needs. And I'll never stop, never ever stop working on behalf of hardworking men and women in Central New York.
Well, Chris, you are one of the hardest working men in Central New York. I know that from your schedule that you keep and the amount of time that you spend out in the community while also having a pretty large family and commitments as well. So thank you so much for your service to our community. Good luck this November, and thank you for coming on Zoom with Czarny.
Dawson, thank you. Thanks for everything you're doing for Board of Elections. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
And that was my interview with Chris Ryan, minority leader of the Onondaga County Legislature and candidate for Senate District 50, one of the most closely watched Senate districts in all of New York State. My content continues in the month of August. I'll be doing Commissioner in a Car next week. Next week's Commissioner in a Car on Tuesday will focus on the propositions. August 5th was the last day for towns and the state to give us propositions to put on the general ballot. So I'll go over what the propositions are in New York, in Onondaga County, that we know of so far. So that my Tuesday Commissioner Carr show will be all about that. My weekly walk, hopefully tomorrow, will be the city of Syracuse. We'll be looking at the city of Syracuse and what it's, how it looks to kind of wrap up our three-part look at Onondaga County, where we looked at the county overall, then the suburbs, now the city of Syracuse, to kind of get an idea of what is going on in our county right now. My Zoom with Czarny next week will be Rachel May. She's Senate District 48 candidate, incumbent. And I'm happy to have her on. She's always a great talk. And as always, you can go to justinczarny.com, like and subscribe. You can get content and election news updates. And as we go into this busy general election season. Thank you very much and enjoy the day. Bye-bye.